Hey, what's going on, guys? Rob with 3 Strong here. I'm going to show you this picture. You guys have probably seen this before in some of my previous videos, where on one side of this spectrum here we have the strength, the higher intensity end of the spectrum, and this utilizes carbohydrates or sugars as its main fuel source. And then on the other side of the spectrum we have the lower intensity endurance side, and this the main fuel is actually fat. One of the things that I'm going to add to this side is actually oxygen. And as we're working out, our body is, we're breathing in air, and that air contains oxygen, which is used to actually break down the fats in our body. So anytime that we're breathing and starting to breathe hard, we're breaking down the fats in our body. And before, I've said that as the intensity gets higher and higher and higher, we start to shift over and utilize more of these carbohydrates. Well, one of the things that people got confused about when I was talking about higher intensity training and interval training is they thought, well, but I'm burning my sugars, don't I want to burn fat? So why do I want to do higher intensity training when the lower intensity training actually burns fat? Well, higher intensity training does burn fat. So if we look at the spectrum here, if I'm working out at a lower intensity and I'm breathing in oxygen, which is therefore going to break down the fats, what happens as I start to work out harder and harder and harder is that this demand goes up. The demand for oxygen goes up. And there's a point where we start breathing really, really hard. So anytime you've done a really intense workout, we're breathing really, really hard, and it's very difficult to breathe slowly. Our body is desperately needing oxygen. We're trying to suck in as much oxygen as possible to fuel whatever we're doing. But there's this point where we can only breathe so hard and so fast. It's at this point in our workouts when our body starts to shift over and start utilizing more sugar. I want you to think of it this way. Say you have like a tug-of-war team going on. Don't worry about the other side. But one side is going to be the intensity of the workout. So either there's not going to be a lot of work needed or a lot of work. Anyway, on your team you have oxygen and then you have your sugars. Well, at a lower intensity you don't need as much work. So you only need a couple of oxygens to pull that rope. But as the demand gets higher, you start needing more and more oxygen. So more and more people on that team need to do work. There's a certain point where oxygen can only do so much. Now you need to utilize all those sugars. But you're not going to tell everyone else to relax, and the sugars are just going to take over. The oxygen and the sugar is going to fuel everything. So now actually at higher intensities, you are actually maxed out. There's only so much oxygen your body can use, and then it gets the extra help. It doesn't completely drop off and this isn't utilized. This is as much as you could possibly use, and then you get that little extra from sugars. When you're doing your high intensity workouts, you are burning the most amount of calories you could possibly burn, the most amount of fats, the most amount of sugars. That's why it's so important to be able to do those kinds of activities, because if you treat your body like a race car, you're going to burn through some fuel like crazy. And if you treat your body like a Prius, you're going to hold on to that stuff. You're going to conserve and you're going to be efficient. So move your butt like crazy, burn that fuel off, and really just treat your workouts like you're racing through a little course or whatever. But just push yourself really hard, and you are going to burn those fats. Okay? See you tomorrow.